Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Stick around. Today I'm going to share with you some LFO techniques inside of Beatmaker 3 that are going to give your beats a little bit more life and a little bit more interest. I've also got a free drum kit for you. Stick around, guys.
Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Hey, seriously, guys, if you like free drum kits and friendly tutorials, please hit that like button because it really helps out the channel. Okay, guys, we're going to start today by downloading this free drum kit into your Beatmaker 3 on your iPad. If you go ahead and open up Safari on your iPad, or you can also do this with Google Chrome browser, you're going to go to my website, Electronisounds.com, and over here we'll see that I have a page set up for my freebie downloads. We'll click on the freebie downloads, and we'll go ahead and scroll down just a little bit here. There's some instructions for downloading some of this stuff, but right now I'm going to give you the instructions. There's some other free downloads on this page. Some of these are just sample packs, and some of these are, specifically downloads for Beatmaker 3, which you can check out on my website. Again, it's electronisounds.com, guys. Okay, so we scroll down to the Cobalt drum kit, which is what we're dealing with today. Now, you'll need to have Dropbox installed inside of your iPad and set up for this to work. And we're going to go ahead and click the Download Beatmaker 3 version for iOS. Give this just a second here. And let's see here. It's going to give us an option to open in Beatmaker 3. We're going to go ahead and click that. And now we've got a message that tells us the unzipped content is available in the imports directory. So here's Beatmaker 3, and if we click the little sandwich icon on the upper left, right, and we go to our documents page and we go to the imports tab, then we have the Cobalt drum kit, and you can actually click that and we can load it up. Now, I've included a pattern in the drum kit to give you kind of an example beat that I made, so we can click load patterns on, and it should go ahead and load that pattern for us as well. We're going to load this bank, and here we go, guys. Let's see if it did in fact load this pattern for us. Whoops, we're gonna go over here, and yeah, our pattern is here. Fantastic. We're going to go ahead and drag this pattern over to our timeline, and we're going to drag the loop brace out to the full length of that pattern. I'm going to hit the play button over here on the side so that it knows that we're dealing with the song browser rather than, not browser, but the song, sequencer rather than the scenes mode inside of Beatmaker 3. And now, right off the jump, going to default that to the default tempo of 90 BPM, and you can start turning this up and hear the actual sounds that I've got programmed here. I'm going to switch over to direct sound, guys, and we'll start talking about this drum kit. Okay, so we're on direct sound now, and I've gone ahead and I've got the Novation launch control mapped to the first 8 macros inside of Beatmaker 3. If you don't know how to map a controller to the macros, I've got a video for that, and I'll put a link up in the corner. So let's go ahead and check out, now that I've got the audio connected directly, guys, let's go ahead and check out the beat example that this kit comes with. It's just kind of a really standard, kind of a dubby, techno, housey sort of a beat. And we're going to pay close attention to the way that some of the sounds are moving in this beat. We're going to listen specifically to like this percussion sample here. And we're going to listen to how that sort of evolves as the beat progresses. And that's going to sort of lead us into this technique that I'm going to show you about using an LFO to get a little bit of extra movement and life inside of your drum patterns. Check out this beat, guys. I've got some macros set up, which I'll explain to you guys in just a minute. But basically, the macros on the right here are just adjusting the volume of the sounds so that once you've programmed the beat in here, you can immediately just start grabbing the macros and tweaking that beat like in a live sort of jamming situation. So the simplest way that I can break this down, guys, is that an LFO is something that literally just gives life and movement, specifically movement to your sounds. And I've got an LFO assigned to the filter on this percussion sample here. So if we open up our sampler tab here and we take a look at the low pass filter that I've got assigned on this percussion sample here, and let's say that we were going to assign, an LFO to move this cutoff on the sample up and down, in time with our beat per se. We're going to double click on what we want to automate, with an LFO, and we're going to click modulate. And here we're going to choose all sorts of options as to what, we can modulate that with. Today we're going to modulate this with an LFO. I've got it currently assigned to LFO 1. If that wasn't there already, you would, click new LFO. And now, if we go over to the modulations tab, over here we've got LFO1, you can see showing up 3 times inside of the modulations tab. And if we look over here, we can see that I've assigned LFO1 to the fine tune of this sample. I've also assigned LFO1 to the resonance of the filter of the sample, and I've assigned LFO1 to the filter cutoff. And now if we click on LFO1, it'll give us the, a window to actually make some setting adjustments inside of here. I've put the LFO to sync to our tempo, and I've told it to sync to 8 bars. So just very, very slowly, no matter what the tempo is, we're going to move that filter ever so slightly. It's like, imagine if you're just sitting here in real time, see if you can see my finger in the camera here, and just moving a knob really, really slowly back and forth over an 8-bar period. And once you've assigned that, to an LFO, then you don't need your hand to get that movement happening. So literally, to create the sort of movement that I've got in this percussion sound, I've had to assign the LFO to 3 destinations. Obviously, I don't have 3 fingers, and there's, multiple sounds here. So you can use these LFOs to really, do things that you wouldn't be able to do in real time. Other things that I really like to assign an LFO to, guys, would be like things like panning, things like the fine tuning inside of Beatmaker 3, and also the regular tuning, which tunes by semitones. The panning is over here, maybe a little bit of gentle automation on the saturation. I'm talking finite, very, very subtle automations with these not really automations, but LFO, programming here, guys, so that the sounds, once you've assigned an LFO and a little bit of movement to like every sound, and like suddenly your whole beat is starting to have a little bit of life now and a little bit, less sterile feeling to it. So let's say that, on a hi-hat sample, I want to assign an LFO to the fine tuning. Now, the fine tuning is very, very subtle. If I move it all the way, up or all the way down, like that's a semitone. You follow? So it's not a really big adjustment. We're not going to get like sweeping octave changes in the pitch like we would if we were to automate just the tuning here. But the fine tuning is very, very subtle. And these subtle, bits of programming add up to a really fine-tuned beat in the end. So we can double-click the fine-tuning. We can click modulate. We can tell it to modulate that with an LFO. You can see here I've actually got 2 different LFOs. These are set to 2 different speeds at which the knobs are moving. But if we did not, have that assigned, we could click new LFO, or say we wanted to assign a third LFO so that everything would have a different tempo sync or whatnot. We can go to the modulations tab. We can open up LFO 3. Say we want to leave it unsynced, okay? I like to put these on mono mode instead of poly mode. That seems to just keep them always moving. And you can adjust the amount of this LFO right over here on the right-hand side. And you can even assign this to like a macro knob. If you don't know how to do macro assignments, I'll put a link. What I'll do, guys, is I'll put a link to my Beatmaker 3 playlist. I've got like 40 some odd videos now, I think, on Beatmaker 3. If you guys want to go deep and start learning, some of these intricacies, I definitely recommend checking that out if you want to get a little bit deeper in Beatmaker 3. I've got videos on all sorts of topics. topics, guys, from sidechain compression to putting a limiter on the master bus to how to set up a live jam, all kinds of stuff. I'll put a link up in the corner. So we could leave this unsynced for now. You can adjust, how much this is going to move that knob in two different places, guys. You can adjust how much it's going to move the knob right here. Currently, it's set to 50%, and then you've got this amount down here, okay? So if you put, say, both of these to 50%, it's going to move that knob, quite a bit. Let's see here. This was to our fine-tuning layer. So if I press play and we take a look at these knobs here, you can actually see a little bit of visual representation of what the LFOs are doing on your knobs. You can see here that, it's moving that around, and that every time this hits, basically, we're getting a very, very slight adjustment on the tuning of this sound. Now, just imagine, guys, if you put that little bit of, tweaking on like all sorts of sounds, and suddenly the beat just starts to come alive, per se. You can definitely assign multiple LFOs to the same sound, just not to the same destination. So I could, for instance, assign an 8-bar LFO to the panning here to maybe pan the sound very slowly from left to right, but I could maybe assign a 1-bar LFO to the fine tuning so that it shifts that tuning, over just a time period of 1 bar. We could even assign a different LFO to, say, the, main global tuning here and get really dramatic shifts in that. We could assign that to, say, 4 bars. You get what I'm saying here? So if you're assigning multiple LFOs with multiple times to multiple destinations on one sound, and then that starts to add up exponentially, and pretty soon your whole drum kit is moving and breathing and whatnot. Let me show you guys specifically how I've set up the macros here. I really find that you can get a lot of creativity and like custom stuff using these macros and what you've assigned here. I've assigned a pitch envelope. Excuse me, I'm going to move the mic here. I've assigned a pitch envelope to the kick drum. And so I'm going to move the mic again. So if currently it's set to 50%, but I can, take that to 0. Okay, so we get our basic kick drums, but if we want them to be a little bit more snappy, I'm going to put the mic down and I'm going to tap the pad as I move this macro up, which is labeled kick snap, and basically it's just a pitch envelope on the kick drum, and you'll hear exactly how snappy you can make these by adjusting that. And you can really set this to your liking, depending on the mix. If it's like a dub techno or a deep house thing where you might not want a super snappy kick drum, I might leave this all the way down. But say if you're trying to do like a 128 electro house or something like that, then you might want a more snappy kick drum, and I might turn this up all the way to 100. Let me go ahead and show you what the differences sound like. It's very subtle, but you can really hear the difference on that third kick drum, how it gets a lot more snappy. And you can really, depending on your preference on the track, you can set this wherever it's going to, most benefit what you're working on. Let's check out this snare tweaker preset that I've got here, guys. It's basically just the same thing as the kick. It's basically like a pitch envelope, and the more that you turn it up, the more like tight and high up the transient attack gets on this, creating a much more snappy snare drum sound. And again, you just sort of customize that to your liking, or you can also tweak this, in real time during the track. Say one section of the track you want to be a lot more poppy per se than another section. You could automate these knobs to come up in that section, or if you're doing a jam in real time, having these here that you can move them in real time is super efficient. The next one down is just going to be an overdrive on the kicks, and that's going to basically add some saturation on the kick drums and stuff. Let me play the beat for you, and I'll turn that up, and you can hear what it's doing to the kick drum. basically just adding a little bit of extra saturation on those kick drums. On number 4, we've got a reverb adjustment on some of the hi-hats and stuff. And then on 5, 6, 7, and 8, we literally just have the volumes of the sound mapped. So you can instantly, with 8 is no kicks, 7 is no hats, 6 is no snares, and 5 is no claps. So just, as the beat is playing within, just real quick, I don't know why my controller has gotten disconnected here from the app, but you could just super quickly take out all the kick drums and stuff. Let me go ahead and plug this back in, and we'll figure out what that sounds like, guys. So again, like if I'm doing live jams and stuff, I really like to use this, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. And so you kind of give yourself those built-in turnarounds, if you're doing it in real time. 4, 2, 3, and then, you can do other stuff like take the hats out, and now you're, sort of sculpting a different section. Really useful if you're using this in a live situation. Take out those clamps. And just sort of use it to sculpt the beat in real time, Make that kick drum more punchy. Give the hats a lot more reverb, and then fade those hats back in. Right, cool. 2, 3, and you get the drift. Real quick, here's what all 16 sounds sound like. Nice little ride there. A little dark percussion sound. Another snare. More percussion. Cool, guys. I hope you find this useful. You can really use this kit to make all sorts of beats. If you use the snare tweaker effect and the kick snap effect. Let's see here. I think you can get some kind of almost drum and bass and UK, bass music sounds out of this with those punchy snares and whatnot. Definitely gonna need that snare tweaker to get those snares super punchy and stuff. I hope you guys have found this useful, and thanks for watching. Hey guys, if you're looking for more sounds for Beatmaker 3, be sure and check out my sample packs on Electronisounds.com. If you place an order with my website, I'll send you a direct download link so you can download any of my sample packs directly into your iPad. Thanks for watching, guys.